Good to see you again. Thanks for coming back to be with me. I have some teachings that I want to do today on Sukkot. You know, Sukkot is what we call the Feast of Tabernacles, but Sukkot is the real name of it. And I've had some amazingly wonderful experiences with Sukkot in Israel, and I want to share some of those with you today. But I also want to tell you about Sukkot in Oklahoma. So hang in there with me, and let's just see where we can go with this. So Sukkot is one of the feasts of the Lord. And I think it's important for us to remember that these are the feasts of the Lord, the appointed times, the Moedim, the time for Him to gather together with His people and to do very special things. Sukkah, S-U-C-C-A or S-U-K-K-A, however you want to do it, is another word for a booth, is the Hebrew word for booth. And during this time frame, it's a 7-day holiday with an 8th day added to it. And it's a time when the Jewish people live in booths, in tents, if you will. It's another time of remembrance. It's the annual feast. It's done every year in the fall, usually October. Sometimes it can be in September. It goes according to the Hebrew calendar, as do all of the Jewish feasts. They go by the Hebrew calendar. We go by the Gregorian calendar. If we were living biblically, we would be going by the Hebrew calendar. So, just this little thing in there. So anyhow, it means Sukkot means booth. Sukkah means booth. Sukkot is the plural, meaning booths, more than one. And during this time frame, they eat their meals in the booths. Some of the guys sleep in the booths. It can be pretty chilly. We don't sleep in the booths. So, the sukkahs start going up right after Yom Kippur. And you know, Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. And so, at the close of Yom Kippur, after they've broken the fast and life as normal begins to come back to Israel, you begin to hear the tap, tap, taps. And their hammers off in a distance, and they're building their booths. Now, not everybody starts on that evening, but a lot of people do. It's just their tradition. The booths can be first of all, the booth has to be temporary. It cannot be like, okay, I'm just adding on to my house or something like that. It has to be a temporary structure. So a tent, oftentimes the reason we hear the hammering going on is because they have a wooden booth that has collapsible sides, like say 4x8 sides made out of plywood or something, and they put them up, they put up a frame, they put them up, and then they take them down at the end of the holiday. So David and I were fortunate enough to live in Jerusalem and to have an apartment up on a mountaintop. If you've been to Israel, then you probably know where Teddy Stadium is, a soccer stadium. Well, our house was up the mountaintop. We looked down on the stadium. Anyhow, so because we were on a mountaintop, we could really see a lot of interesting things going on. And one of the things we'd love to do is we would like to go on our merapeset. That's the Hebrew word for balcony. Merapeset. And we could look over the edges. And because these are mountainsides, you know, the houses are built like in rows. And they're stepped like that. So we could go out and look over our merapeset and begin to see the sukkahs being built. And there'd be one here and one here and one there. And by the time Sukkot is ready to start, all the merapesets are full of sukkahs. And it's so fun. Like I said, first one or two, and then they would all go up. Some are very fancy, very large, and some of them are tiny, tiny little structures, just big enough for the family. If it's a newlywed or someone like that, they might have just one or two people, or maybe a small family. But you can see the ones that the whole family comes home for Sukkot because their entire merapeset, if it's large, is filled with it. When we lived in Israel, we didn't build a sukkah. We're there as Christians, and we didn't build one. We just gawked, if you will. We looked at all the others, just loving it, loving everything that they were doing, watching the creativity going on down the mountainside, watching the creativity going on across the city. It was so much fun to watch these sukkahs go up. And I've attended several business meetings in sukkahs, and that's fun. to go there to sit outside in the sukkah during the day. The weather's usually nice during the day. At night, it can, as I said, get pretty chilly. But anyhow, we'd sit in these sukkahs, and we would fellowship, or we'd have our business meeting, or whatever we're doing, and we would have something to drink and something to eat, because you're supposed to eat in the sukkahs. All of the hotels all over Israel build a sukkah, and they're usually very, very large, because they're large enough for all their guests to go into and eat the meals. So if you are Jewish in a hotel in Israel, you probably are sitting in a sukkah during Sukkot somewhere. And I wanted to go on with some of my stories, but before I do that, I wanted to have us look at some scripture about the sukkah. And Leviticus 23 is an amazing book in the Bible. Leviticus 23 talks about all of the Jewish festivals, but it's just a short glimmer of each festival. And then you have to go back to the more scriptures to look them up. But Leviticus 23, verses 39 and 40, on exactly the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the crops of the land, you shall celebrate the feast of the Lord for 7 days, with a rest on the first day and a rest on the 8th day. Now on the first day you shall take for yourselves a foliage of beautiful beautiful trees, palm branches and boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. We're going to talk about this rejoicing. And then verses 41 and 42. You shall thus celebrate as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in the year. It shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations. You shall celebrate it the 7th month. You shall live in booths for 7 days. All the native born in Israel shall live in booths. So that your generations may know that I had the sons of Israel live in booths when I brought them out from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So Moses dedicated to the sons of Israel the appointed times of the Lord. Okay. As with all the feast, this is God ordained. No one just made it up and said, okay, let's party. It's God ordained. And he expects that the people will do it in remembrance of when they came out of slavery. All of these are about remembering. Don't forget, he says, don't forget what I brought you out of. Don't forget that once you were slaves, but I set you free. Don't forget that there's a purpose for you. Almost every, so as you see the instructions that are to build the booths and live in them, and according to the Jerusalem Talmud, the roof of the sukkah is to be covered with palm leaves or the like. Whatever the use, it has to be temporary. It has to be so they can see the stars through the roof. So, no asphalt roofs allowed. Sorry guys, those of you roofers, take a vacation. So what you have here is a temporary structure. As I said, it can be wooden, it can be fabric like a tent, or whatever you have to do it with. And then the roof of it oftentimes is flat like this, and then they lay palm boughs across it like so, and so that you can still look up and see the stars. The trees are part of the celebration. The cities of Israel are very, very benevolent when it comes time for Sukkot. They go out, and this is so much fun to see. They have these big, big trucks, and they go out and they harvest palm leaves from the tall palm trees, and they load these trucks just as full as they can get them, and then they come around through the cities with them, and they put them on the palm leaves on the corners. They unload the trucks, and they put the palm boughs down like this. And so if you're there in that neighborhood, you can go and take from those palm leaves the roof for your sukkah. And it's no charge, it's just there. It's really cool. Now, trying to do that in Oklahoma, we don't have palm trees, unless they're plastic. We also have pink flamingos too. The cities want the people to celebrate. The people want to celebrate. So this is just a way of helping them. If someone doesn't have a mayor pass to build a sukkah on, oftentimes they'll build it on the sidewalk out in front of the house. Of course, it has to be so that people can still get by. You can't make the people go out in the street. Or maybe they'll build it in their yard. If they have a yard, a little attached yard, maybe they'll build it in the yard. And if they only have, if it's like a small apartment building and only so many apartments in it, maybe the neighbors will all go together and build a sukkah, a big one. Or you might say 3 or 4 small ones. I mean, everybody has a sukkah. So there's this thing called the sukkah hop. It's kind of like a floating dinner. You know, years ago we used to do this floating dinner. We would go to one person's house for hors d'oeuvres, another person's house for the entree, another person's house for the dessert. And so we just kind of hopped around. And so the sukkah hop is kind of like that. You go from one sukkah to another sukkah to another sukkah, and basically people are inviting you in because they want you to see how beautiful their sukkah is. I mean, it's a great thing. They decorate them kind of like we do our Christmas trees, and that's great fun. The idea is it's a celebration. It's a time of great joy. Another thing they do in Israel at this time is the lulav. Now the lulav is it's this holder. It looks like, well, it always makes me think, you know, that Chinese handcuffs that we used to get as kids where you put your fingers in it and then you can't get them out and you try and you can't get your fingers out. Well, that looks like the bottom of the lulav. It's a woven basket type of thing. And so they put a palm branch or palm frond down in it, a myrtle branch, and an olive branch, I believe. They put in those. And then they carry them around and they shake them and they wave them 6 directions. 6. And so it's north, south, east, west, up, down. That's 6 directions, count 'em. And so this is all part of the religious ceremony about Sukkot. They also have this item. It looks like, it's called an etrog, E-T-R-O-G, etrog, but it looks like a gigantic lemon. It's huge, and it's very pretty in color. It's very citrusy, a thick rind, and they carry that around with them too. Now, both of these things, the lulav and the etrog, they have special carriers for. And so you may see a guy walking around with this long thing. It looks like maybe it has a bow in it for an instrument. But what it is it's a carrier for the lulav. And so he'll have that, and then he'll have the etrog, which is in its own little carrier, and those can be just as ornate as can be. And some of them are silver. I mean, if you're very, very moneyed, they might be silver. Otherwise, they might be like, maybe kind of like a small purse. But they usually will have, it'll fold out like this, and the etrog is in the middle, and then they close it and carry it by the handles. Much nicer than trying to hang on to it, getting on and off the bus kind of stuff thing. And Israel does a lot of moving around on buses. So, what I wanted to do was talk about the decorations. When they decorate this sukkah, it is like we decorate our Christmas trees. There is garland, there are lights, yes, lights, and the lights vary according to the family, and because you're going to be eating in there at night, so you need some kind of light. Maybe if you don't have electrical light, you can take out a lantern or something like that. There are things, ornaments hanging down. Some friends of ours put up a sukkah at a frat, and we went out there to help put the sukkah up. But really what we were doing was just being a part of what was going on. It was so much fun. So I wanted to take out decorations for the sukkah that were from us. And so I went shopping. Any excuse to go shopping, I did. So I went shopping and I found these white doves. Of course, they're not real. But these beautiful white doves that you hang. And so I got, I don't know, 6 or 8, whatever it was, of those and took out for their sukkah. And so we hung them from the branches. They had ornaments hanging. It's typical for the families to put their children's schoolwork up, particularly if the children are small and they've done things at kindergarten or first grade, second grade, or something like that. They've made paintings, drawings, something like that. It's very, very typical to put the children's artwork along the edges of the sukkah. Everybody has something to give in decorating the sukkah. So and it's just wonderful. And then all the meals are eaten out there. And as I said, some of the guys sleep out there. So we're in Israel for Sukkot. We've been there so many times. We're so blessed. And during Sukkot, there's this holiday called Hoshana Rabbah. It's the great day. We wanted to participate in that, but we didn't know what it was. And we were asking around, but we were asking cautiously because, we're Christians and we're invading their space and that kind of thing. So we didn't know for sure when Hoshana Rabbah would happen, but we knew it was very special. We wanted to be a part of it. So David and I have an apartment, and our friend is there with us from England. And my other friend from Oklahoma City, Connie and Gary, were there. And 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings. And she said, "I think this is it." I said, "It's what?" She said, I think this is it. I think this is Hoshana Rabbah. And I said, "You're kidding." "No, I think it's now." And she said, "Gary and I are going down now to the wall. And if I don't call you back in 30 minutes, then you know to come." I said, "Okay." So I'm lying there in bed. David says, "What's that?" And I told him what I said. And I said, "Do you want to go?" And he said, "Yeah." Well, I didn't tell him that she had a dream. And the Lord woke her up and said, "This is the day." So anyhow, we decide we're going to go down. We're lying in bed. It's pitch black out. And we're listening. Usually the streets are silent at night, except you might hear an occasional car. But we're listening, and we're hearing all of these voices outside. And I keep thinking, it's too noisy, something's going on. So we get up and we peek out the windows and we see people are going towards city center. And we're out southwest of town. And so we decide we're going to go. And so we get up. My friend from England, of course, is awake. And anytime the phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's got to be something, right? So she's awake, and I said, "This is what's happening. We're going down there." And I said, "Do you want to go?" And she said, "Of course to go." So we decided we're going to go, and we're going to go right now. Now, I tell you what, I didn't have any makeup on. That's scary. I didn't have any makeup on. We just went. We threw on our clothes, and we went down there. And she grabbed a purse and her pencil and paper. She's an artist. And we get in the car, and we go. And we see these people, and they're hurrying. Most of them are walking because there's no public transportation at that time of night. And they're walking like hurriedly towards the old city. So you had to go to the city center and then down to the old city. And we're thinking, wow, whatever it is, everybody's so excited. So the closer we get, we realize that, we see more and more and more people going towards the old city. And we're thinking, okay, all right, we need to grab a parking place because we're not going to be able to park anywhere near the old city. So we park like 3 blocks away, and now the 3 of us get out, and we're going just as fast as we can go. And here we get caught up in this masses of people going towards the old city. And of course, it's the middle of the night, so everything is locked up. Quiet. All the stores are closed. They have these things that come down, look kind of like a garage door. It's a protector of the store. Those are all down and locked, and the lights are on the streets, of course, as they are in any city. And so we get caught in this crowd of people, and the excitement is just incredible. If you could just feel it, and it's contagious. Even though we don't know what it is we're doing, we're just doing it because this is it. So we go, and you just kind of go like this through the old city, and there's a bunch of steps as you go down to the courtyard of the Western Wall. Well, there's masses of people there. Already, masses of people. That courtyard is huge. We get down the steps and we think, oh my gosh, we're not ever going to find our friends. And sure enough, there they are. Connie and Gary are standing there. So now David and Ira and I join them. And we're saying, what is this? What is this? Because there's all this excitement in the air. And they have the lulav down there. And so the guys, they're at the wall. All the men are at the wall. Of course, the women are at their side at the wall. And so we can just see all these prayer shawls and the lulav. We have no clue. Totally ignorant. We're stepping off into a realm we don't know. So Connie had studied up enough about it, so she can kind of explain what was going on. So anyhow, we're down there and we're just watching. And we're literally turning in circles. I always felt like I needed to be on a turntable because there was so much to take in. So in Connie's reading, she said, okay, I've got it. I know what this is. And I said, okay. She said, what's happening here? And she says, well, when the sun starts coming up over the old city, the books are sealed. The book of life is sealed today. And whatever you're doing at the time that book is closed is going to be, it will affect what happens in your life throughout the year. She said, yeah. So they're down here, I mean, they are praying like crazy, just this fervor of prayer, and it is just amazingly beautiful. And so we're watching and we're turning and we're watching. And over here, if you've been there, you know, here's the western wall. And over here is kind of like a retaining wall, and it's high, it's 2 or 3 stories high, but it slopes and it goes up like that, and like that. So the birds are caught up in this fervor as well. And they're flying in and they're flying out and they're swooping around and all this stuff is going on. And we see these beautiful white pigeons come in, and they have on, they're gray, and they have stripes on their wings that make it, when their wings are down, it looks like they have on prayer shawls. And so they're over here on this retaining wall on the side, and they're kind of going around in circles. And we're watching that. Other birds are flying back and forth. And we said, this is amazing. Even God's animals, even his birds are caught up in this fervor of the moment. And let me tell you, when I say fervor, I'm very positive. This is not a negative thing. And so we're watching this, and we watched a dove come in and land in the wall, and then leave, and then come back again and land and stay. Over here, the pigeons are doing their things. The people down here are doing their thing. Everybody's praying. The more you see the sun, and you just see, you know, how it is dawning, the brightness begins to appear. And so we're seeing some of that. And the frenzy, the fervor, and the prayers get louder and louder and louder. Now over here behind us is like a little wall that you can sit on. And right connected to that wall is the courtyard police station. And so over here you have a synagogue. Up there you have synagogues. You have synagogues of people all over praying together. But then you have this masses of people at the wall. So we're just, as I said, we're spinning. Now my friend Ira is an artist. We didn't know whether you could take pictures, because on some of the days you're not allowed to take pictures. So she's over here with her pencil and paper, sketching what she's seeing with the artist's eye. We're just twirling around. And pretty soon we see the pigeons up here, and 3 blackbirds come over and land, and the pigeons take off. And pretty soon only 3 pigeons come back. And I said, Lord, please don't let that be prophetic. Please don't let that be what's going to happen in the future. So the guys are praying at the wall with the lulav, and when certain words are said, they raise the lulav up. Now remember, these are palm fronds, these are willow trees and myrtle bushes. I said olive holly, but it's myrtle, willow, and palm. And they do this with them. Okay. So at certain times they would raise them up and down. And so here's Ira, and she came up and says, look at my pad. Look at what I saw. And I said, what do you see? And she said, it's like the palm fronds become swords. And it's like they're doing spiritual warfare as they're doing this. I said, oh my gosh. So, you know, all this stuff is happening. And so, and as I said, as the light gets brighter, the more the fervor. So I look over here, and there's this little kid being like 8 years old, something like this. And he takes his lulav and he just starts beating it like this on the ground. And the ground, you know, it's limestone pavement. It's very rugged. And he's just beating it. And I thought, well, what did that thing do to you, kid? Why are you mad at that? And I thought he's been a brat because I didn't understand. And you know, sometimes when we don't understand, we put judgment on things we shouldn't be putting judgment on. So I said to Connie, I said, look at the kid, he's being a brat. And she said, no. That's what they do. When they're through praying, then they beat the lulav so the seed comes out of it. There's seeds in the myrtle, and the seed comes out of it, and it falls on the ground, and the myrtle is replenished. Well, duh. Should have figured out something like that, you know, instead of doing my superior judgment thing. Well, anyhow, it was an incredible time. It was incredible. It was an experience that none of us would ever forget. And from then on, we've tried to go up the wall at Rosh Hashanah, at Hoshana Rabbah, if we're in the Old City at the time that happens. So coming back to Oklahoma. When David got sick, we couldn't fly to Israel anymore. I'm going to hurry up, try to finish the story. We couldn't fly to Israel anymore. He couldn't fly. And so we were both homesick for Israel. It was Sukkot, coming into Sukkot time. And so I decided to put a sukkah in our backyard. And he said, "You're nuts." I said, "Yeah, I know." So I called my son. He had a big tent. It was garage-size tent. And it was white, beautiful white. And I said, "We need to borrow your tent, and I need you to put up." And it filled the entire carport, a large, not carport, but patio. Filled the entire patio. And so he puts up this beautiful white tent, has windows on the side, and it has a peaked roof. Well, the question was, what are we going to do about the roof? Because we're supposed to see, supposed to see the stars, and we're not supposed to use trees that are already there. So what we did was, I bought this plastic lattice work, and we put that up there, and that was our sukkah. And we had such a great time in our sukkah. We decorated it. People brought decorations. We had the best time. I would encourage you to do that. You don't have to be garage size, but build a sukkah in your yard and walk into it and celebrate Sukkot. Shalom, Shalom, Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Shalom.